Well, we're off on another vacation. As I look out the window, I see the harbors and naval bases along the coast of Ventura County, California. That's my home down there. I didn't know we flew over our home on the way to Hawaii. I thought we just headed south. My thoughts are of swimming in the waters off Waikiki Beach and soaking in the sun. The blue sky and ocean below tell me we are approaching the island of Oahu. What have you got to say now that you are in Hawaii? What? This is my daughter Marie Claire. As you can see, she wants to be a hula dancer.
This is our teen mother. No. This is our baby. Yeah. See that? Empty baby. Yeah, but then.
Marie Claire loves to wear hula outfits and may start to dance at any time. I never would have thought how much hula dancing would become a part of my life.
Well, when you're off a boat, the water's too deep. But
Impromptu hula. Everybody loves hula. People travel from around the world to visit Hawaii and see hula dancing. Tourists love to have their pictures taken with hula dancers. So I take pictures of tourists taking pictures of my daughter. Now even my wife wants to hula. As we say goodbye to Hawaii on our final sunset cruise, my thoughts are of what a beautiful culture there is here and how to stay connected with it. I decide to find a hula teacher for my daughter when we get home. Back to reality. My daughter and I went to the car wash in Port Hueneme. I paid the cashier and sat in a chair to wait for my car. It was a hot day and Marie Claire was complaining of the heat. She disappeared and returned in a few minutes with her hair put up in a bun. I asked her, "Who did that?" She motioned behind me. I turned and saw two Hawaiian women smiling at me. I thanked them for the hairdo. Later that day, I went to the Hong Kong Inn in Ventura. I knew that there was Polynesian dancing there. I found out there was a show the following night. So on Friday, my family and I went to the Hong Kong Inn. When we looked at who was singing on stage, I realized it was one of the Hawaiian women from the car wash. Her name was Tina Vainuku. It turned out that she was born in Samoa, raised in Hawaii and Port Hueneme. She let Marie Claire dance on the stage. We found out that she gave hula lessons and we decided to join her group. The following week, we brought Marie Claire to dance class. There was a happy family atmosphere where the older girls helped the younger girls learn the routines. I thought this would be good for my daughter. It was not just dancing in the Nutcracker once a year. She could perform on the weekends and at special events. This is the story of my daughter's progress over 1 year, the events we attended, and getting to know one special person. I sat down with Tina a year later and had a conversation with her. This is that conversation, along with the video of the hula girls and their performances over the year. So you were a Navy brat too, right?
I was a Navy brat.
That's what brought you here?
That's what brought me here. My father was actually from Western Samoa, and he wanted to come to America because he heard that America had a better life for everyone. So, and he kind of lied and told them that he was an American citizen. And so my dad joined the Navy during the war, and my father came to Hawaii, and I think my father he said he worked for 25 cents an hour. And when he came to Hawaii, and he didn't really have any relatives or really knew anyone, so he slept on a bench at a park called Alapaka Park in Hawaii. But he saved every penny he had, he saved so he could bring all of us to America. And so that's how we ended up here. My father was in the Navy, and he retired from the Navy here.
Your immediate family was a big family, wasn't it?
Very big family. Yeah, we started off with 6 girls, 6 boys. And then we had another, my parents adopted a cousin, so there goes 7 boys. We kind of like adopted people into our family, and our family just kept growing. And so, yeah, we have a lot of brothers and sisters. Yeah.
So, what was it like growing up in Port Hueneme when you were there? You were living on the base?
Lived in the base for about 2 to 3 years. And it was actually really good memories living on the Navy base. I think the military really takes care of the families and makes sure that the families had like the movies to go to, the skating rinks, the little golf, miniature golf thing, and bowling alleys. And my father used to work in the bowling alley. He was a good bowler. And then, yeah, it was really good memories of living in the base and always meeting new people that come in and out from the military. So we met a lot of new people and a lot of new kids to play with, and some of the kids we end up being lifetime friends. And in fact, I still know some of the kids that we grew up with, and it was like growing up back home. And so we see each other all the time, and we socialize with each other. We say, we wonder where each other's at, and but we all grew up in the base, and so all their families settled here. And so yeah, I can tell you some of the places. I mean, Oxnard has changed tremendously. Even Port Hueneme, so we know most of these places were all lemon fields and
Now they're sprouting houses.
yes, I remember Harbor Days. They started Harbor Days. It was on the beach in Port Hueneme. There was no condos there. It was just sand dunes. And they used to have the fireworks at nights, and it was fun to go to. And when I was a little kid, I didn't even know that was Harbor Days. I didn't even know that had anything to do with Harbor Days. And now I'm involved with Harbor Days. And
So that was originally something from the military, wasn't it? I mean,
I think from the harbor. I think
from the harbor area.
I think some of the wives got together, and they had this, little. They had carnivals and fireworks, and it started to grow, and it became a big deal. And actually, they were making money to build up Port Hueneme, and so they put in the Public Springs Park, and they used some of that money that they made to help build up Port Hueneme. And so they give to the Boys and Girls Club in Port Hueneme. They give to a lot of nonprofit, they give back to the community. And so I was involved with it because it was a good thing to do. And for years and years, I've been with Harbor Days, and they've always had, the things that they do behind Harbor Days was a good thing for community. And I like to get involved with things that has to do with community, that you give back to the community. And I hope someday that I could really give back to the community. I mean, I'm trying to have instilled in all my students that the important things in life, we go about our everyday business and our everyday lives, and people have, their everyday problems and things that they face. But if you work with the community and give back to the community and help one another, that's the most important thing. The Polynesian legends and culture and the stories that are being told by the old people, they're so interesting. And if someone could do a story about all the legends, they'll have a bestseller. They'll have a really good movie, because you rarely hear about all the kings and queens and all the legends and the beautiful stories in the South Pacific that needs to be told, just like our history here.
Right.
Well,
that culture that you're talking about there's Polynesian people and people of all different colors living here that need to find out about this.
Yes,
and that's
And it amazes me about how many people from different nationality are so into the Polynesian culture, because it's actually a loving culture. It's a giving culture. It's all about sharing and giving, and being kind to one another and helping one another. Um, when I hear people say aloha, or we do it for aloha, or our group is aloha, well, a lot of the teachers, and I don't like to put teachers down and people down about when they say aloha, is because a lot of times when you hear kumu say, you know, we do this for aloha, or in our culture we teach aloha or love, and if they say that, they actually should act and do what they say, and what they try to preach to other people. Everybody should be kind to one another, help one another, share their cultures with everyone. And then I notice that some of the kumus that are American, they have more aloha and more love for the Polynesian culture, and they really portray that love by sharing their talents. Like, for instance, Jenny from Simi Valley, June from Thousand Oaks, they came and did, they're always doing festivals, and these kumus are not even Hawaiian blood, but yet they show the love, and that all the kumus that are Polynesian.
What does kumu mean?
Kumu means a hula instructor or teacher.
Teacher.
Yeah. And
So you're a kumu.
well, kumu is how they say it in Hawaiian, and I'm just a teacher. And so I'm just a teacher of the things that I learned from my parents, and that my parents have learned from their parents, and so on and so on. Because I wasn't really raised in Samoa. I was very young when I left Samoa. But my parents always taught us the culture. My parents always taught us the respect of my eyes are watering. And I think it's my cheap makeup. No. But my parents always taught us to be kind to people, be charitable, be good to people, because what goes around comes around. And the Lord will always bless you with all the different things if you share your love, and you just share, and respect other people, that you'll always go far in life. And I love to share my culture with people, even, like sometimes we have paying students and sometimes we don't have paying students. And if I had my choice, I would have no one pay, because that's how it was, if you can afford to pay, you pay. If you don't, you don't. But now that we have a studio, I have to charge so we can get the studio going, and also paying for costumes for girls that can't afford to pay. So it's an expensive, how do you say, business to go into, or expensive way of teaching your culture. But here in America, things don't grow like they do back home, where you can just make your costumes and do whatever you need to do. So
Why, you have to buy everything.
you have to buy everything. It's
Rent
very
everything.
expensive.
Yeah.
And then but it's satisfactory when you share your talents with kids from all walks of life. We have kids that come from broken families. We have kids that come from poor families. We have kids that come from, rich families. Medium. They come from all walks of life, and so therefore, when you do teach, you have to have a lot of patience with all of them. And I know sometimes, as a teacher and other teachers, we do lose our patience a little bit, but we got to remember that these people that we're teaching are not from our culture. We have to remember that. Back home, when you learn how to do something and they know you're Polynesian and you should know better, and you're not doing it right, they just grab a branch from the tree and start hitting your hand so you can do it right, and your parents will stand there and let you do it. because they know that you got to learn your culture some way, somehow. So you have to obey the teacher and listen to what the teacher tells you. But here in America, we have to realize that not everybody's Polynesian. And I think sometimes I get one or two or three students that are Polynesian in my class. And the rest of the students, are Hispanic, white, Oriental, and and I'm amazed at how many people love the culture and they love to be a part of Polynesia.
Why do you do hula dancing? I mean, why are you involved in it? What's in it for you?
Well, for me, it's very rewarding to watch people from other cultures learn your culture, and how there's so many people in my culture that don't know how to dance. They they wish not to dance, or but then when their children grow, it'll be lost. They would. I have some students now that are from Samoan descendants that their parents wish that they taught them when they were younger about the Samoan culture. And they come to me at the age of 18 or 19 or older, and they don't know anything about their culture. And that's really sad. And so when people come to me and it made me more interesting to teach people about my culture. Because you never know. My family, my cousins and my older cousins, my parents, were all into this genealogy stuff. And sometimes you never know that some of the girls that are interested in the culture that are from another nationality trace their genealogy, and down the line they had families were Polynesian. And some of them love it so much that they think there were Polynesians in the life before or something. But it's fun to teach them the culture and see them, some of them actually try to live that culture. Because, I'm not cracking on Americans or anything like that, because, I'm American, but
There she is,
Um,
that arm again.
as I talk to some of the people, they don't have a culture. America really doesn't have a culture. They don't have
Do that again.
I don't know.
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's is their culture, I guess. I mean, they don't really have anything to teach us. Maybe in the cowboy days or something like that, like but the Indians,
Yeah, they were original inhabitants.
right, and but the Indians have a culture. I perform for a lot of Chippewa Indian casino resorts, and it amazes me how the Indians tie into Polynesian.
I was going to say that
Yes,
I think the relation is there because they're native cultures.
yes, and
But see, America doesn't really have a culture because everybody came from everywhere else.
yes,
So they bring whatever cultures they had, and then a lot of it gets lost. Like I have culture from my father's side from the Italy, and I have culture from my mother's side from England and Wales. So I had actual ties to the Welsh culture, especially because of my grandmother. So I can identify with what you're,
yes,
but it's not as much American culture as well. Everybody else is, and there's a lot of stereotypes.
right,
They think people are a certain way,
right,
and because they're Italian or because they're this or that, and or they're Polish or they're blacks or they're Hispanic, and so there's a lot of that pigeonholing of people
right,
that goes on here
yeah.
because people don't have enough chance to experience
The different
everyone's cultures.
And actually, when you study culture, and everybody, like we have the Spanish culture, we have the Polynesian culture, we have people from South America culture. It's amazes me all their, even the Indians, like getting back to the Indians. I really actually feel that, and I know that we must have been all tied together as one, because even their headpieces and their headdresses and I mean, their costumes or stuff, they almost mean the same things as our stuff. Just like New Zealand looks like Indians, their culture and their costumes are like Indians, and so being with the Indians more and more, we believe in the same things they do, the American Indians, and so I know that we were all tied as one culture at one time, and so and it was really interesting to me, and then teaching people about my culture is like when you study about or when you learn the different ways of making headpieces and the costume from the different islands, you don't just go and get something that because it looks Hawaiian or something that looks Tahitian and then say, okay, this is it. You really have to learn all the meanings of why they wear what they do and, why they dress the way they do is because of the culture. And so a lot of times when you see the groups that are beginning and they think, oh, this is pretty, let's wear this. Well, it's not traditional. It looks nice for showy, but it's really not the traditional meaning of the what it's supposed to be. And so it's good to educate them because that way they know. Or it's good to help a group to let them know that this is why we do this. So I think everybody should share with one another instead of competing or with one another or criticizing one another. I think the best thing to do is share with one another because you're gonna die. We know that we're two sure things. We're born, we die. Well, what are you gonna do with your culture? Before you die, it's good to share it, and it's good to put some kind of impression or some kind of things. Leave something behind.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your legacy or something behind that somebody can carry on. And I hope that all these girls that I teach will grow up and teach the culture and the dances and everything that they learn to other people.
Where did you learn the ukulele and drumming and singing? You're a natural singer. You've got perfect voice.
Well,
Where did you get that?
I never thought I was a good singer. Where I learned everything from is my mother. My mother taught all of us to dance, to sing and dance. And my mother was a guitar player, a ukulele player. She was a composer. She sang, and I remember the first song my mother taught us was Yellowbird. And my mother would say, "Come here, kids." There's so many of us. She was probably thinking we were gonna. My mom says, "This is how you sing this. I'm gonna teach you guys Yellowbird." And you go up high, and your brother can go low, and your sister can go another. There's different levels of voices. It's called harmonization, and this is how you sing. So also in our church we sing a lot. I think everybody that sang before started at church some way somehow. So she taught my brothers how to play piano. She taught them how to play guitar, and she taught us how to dance. And so actually, with the voice part, I thank my mom, because my dad couldn't sing worth beans, but he thought he could sing. But my dad played the saxophone in the Navy band, and my dad sings, and all of us, I remember we sang in the high school choir, we sang in our church choir. My brother, one of my brothers got a big trophy for being the best tenor and baritone. And they never did anything with their singing thing, but we all can sing. And how I started singing, I was dancing before I even started singing, is Tao, my cousin that has a group now, Tao, he was in my brother's band, my oldest brother's band. And he was the singer for the group. Well, my brother played for a wedding before he played for a high school dance in Port Hueneme, in Hueneme High School. And Tao got so drunk during the wedding that he couldn't even stand up. But they needed a singer. And so my brother told my father, I got to take Tina, you know, maybe, you know, she can stand there, just be a fifth body on stage, because we had signed that there's 5 of us on the contract. So we have to have 5 people on the contract. So I was just a body. And I was just standing there. My brother said, do you know anything, any song, anything? And I looked at my brother and I said, I just know half of I've Only Just Begun. Well, We've Only Just Begun by the Carpenters. And my brother said, sing it. I don't care if you sing half of it, just sing it, and you can sing it over and over. And so that's exactly what I did. Throughout the whole night, I sang We've Only Just Begun 5 times. And I told my brother again. Meanwhile, they were trying to sober up Tao, you know, and he couldn't even stand up. It was just a lost cause. So I was saying, we only just begun to live. And then I said, we've only just begun. And some of the band members were telling me, white lace and promises, you know, like this. And so I sang what they were telling me. It didn't make sense probably. So from then on, my brother had a good idea. He says, I have a good idea. Why don't you start singing? I'll teach you a song. And I said, no, that's okay. I'll stick to dancing. And he said, no, you should sing, you know, because I guess female singers at that time with the all-male band was pretty good, you know. And so he says, you can start singing. Let me teach you a song. So the first song I learned was Killing Me Softly. And so he taught me how to sing Killing Me Softly in English, and then one of my friends at work taught me the Spanish part of Killing Me Softly. And so everywhere I went, I sang Killing Me Softly 4 or 5 times, and then after that, I hated that song. I never wanted to sing that song again. And every time my brother calls me up on stage, he tells me, can you sing Killing Me Softly? I just knew he was going to ask me to sing that song. So I sang that song to death. And my brother decided, well, you know what? He saw Lady Sings the Blues. He says, I want you to do some of these songs in there. Lady Sings the Blues. And I said, oh, I don't like those songs, you know. And so I ended up singing some songs from Lady Sings the Blues. So now I don't sing those songs anymore because I sang those songs to death. And so from then on, I just started singing. And my brother left to go to Hawaii with his family, and I started taking over the little show that we had. My sisters and I and my mother and her sister decided, well, we're going to put a show together. And so they did put a show together, and it was called The Pride of Polynesia. And all my cousins, and I had tons of cousins, I think their group consists of maybe 20, 30 cousins, and they traveled around to all the colleges and high schools and performed and told some stories, you know, and legends about the different things in Polynesia, the coconut, you know, and everything.
You know, I noticed this, at every place that I'll video the audience, and I look out, and all these people are just they have smiles on their faces. It's a very wonderful experience, and I also think that a lot of the people that I see out in the audience will never actually physically go to Hawaii or Tahiti or any of these beautiful places, but you're bringing that to these people, and they love it because it's so exotic.
I'll tell you a story. When we were in Oklahoma Grove, when we lived in Shangri-La Resort in Afton, Oklahoma, and the nearest town to us was Grove and Veneta, and the kids were going to Grove High School, and so one day the kids came and asked me, Mom, do you think we can go put a show on for the elementary and the middle school and the high school? Because a lot of these people will never see the islands. They will never see Hawaii or Samoa or anywhere. Is there any way we can go and share what we do here in this resort with some kids in these schools? And I said, sure, let's go do it, you know. And so on one of our days off, they called off the whole school. We had an assembly, and they had all the elementary, the middle school, the high schools, and even their parents came. And I said, invite as many people as you want so we can really share our talents with these people. And I tell you, they were so amazed and they were just overwhelmed of how the dances and the songs, and we had our fire knife dancer do the fire knife, and they were so excited and so happy, and they didn't know how to say thank you. They say thank you, thank you, thank you, but they thought that wasn't enough. So they gave the kids Letterman jackets, and they gave them little knickknacks that said, the school, name on it. And they were really so happy that we shared, this. Then some of them came up to us and said, we hear about Hawaii, we watch it on TV, and we never saw it until, with our own eyes. And so, thank you for bringing this culture to our children. They may never see Hawaii, but they'll always remember this. And so I'm surprised a lot of the places in the United States how people just see things on TV, but they never can afford to go to the islands. And my dream was to have a culture center in the United States that people can drive to or take the bus or come with their families and see Polynesia. How it really is. Instead of flying to Hawaii, hey, we got it all here. In the United States, we have a lot of talent here in the United States. So many hula groups and so many to share with people. And I'm sure other cultures here in the United States too. But this is a good thing for children. It's a positive thing. At least their families would know where they are on the weekends, and their children are out dancing on the weekends, and they know that they're not out there joining gangs and and doing things they're not supposed to do. In high school, I was flying back and forth to Missouri and taking care of my grandmother. I think all the cousins that were bad had to summertime. We spent our summertime taking care of my grandmother. So it was always like we met at the airport and go, "Oh, what did you do? How come you gotta go?" Like that. And so we always met at the airport, and we don't know who's coming to go to Missouri and take care of my grandmother. But I think it was a blessing because my grandmother also told us a lot of legends and a lot of stories. And then I was asking my grandmother, because when you're young, you don't really care. But I was asking my grandmother as I was taking care of her. She had tattoos from her knees all the way up. She was tattooed. I asked her, "Where did you get your tattoos from? What is this?" And she says, "I was a taupo." A taupo, we don't have princesses in Samoa, but a taupo is sort of like a princess. She says, "Oh, it's a taupo," and the taupos were tattooed like that all the way up. And I guess I don't know if it's true or not, but she says when a taupo is tattooed, they know that you're a virgin. And so if someone was to make love to you and they caught him or whatever, they would get beheaded or killed because they can't say I didn't know she was a taupo because she was branded she was tattooed. And so so she said when she didn't want to be a taupo anymore, she took off from the village. And she said all the villagers and her father was looking for her. They were searching for her and everything. And she said she ran to a mission home that was a Mormon mission home, and it was like running to a convent or something. She said she ran there, and she told the person that was in there, who was my grandfather now, and told him, "Please help me, they're going to kill me," and so my grandfather hid her from the villagers and they were looking for her, and they were going to kill her actually for disobeying, the high chief and everything, because you're not supposed to disgrace your family by running away or anything like that. And she said that's how her and my grandfather met, when she went there for help and ended up staying there. And So, anyways, my grandmother, um, her her genealogy ties in with my father's side of the genealogy, and because I asked when I looked at the genealogy and my grandmother's name, like I said, names mean something in Samoa, and I think that teaching my class, I think I should teach them also about legends and customs and tradition, so they'll know when they go visit the place, they would know what to do. You know, like in Samoa, when when you come in and people are sitting down, you can't stand up and say, well, hi everybody, how are you doing? You have to sit down and then talk, you know, or you can't walk in front of somebody without saying tulo, which means excuse me. And you have to have that respect. You can't just walk in front of somebody. It's disrespectful. Or you can't stand up and eat while everybody else is sitting down. It's bad manners to stand up and eat, you know. And so there's a lot of customs and tradition, and you can't butt into if your parents are talking, all the kids have to clear out. If they're just talking to friends, or you can't have any children around, that's disrespectful. So they tell all the kids to go in one room or go, you know, play or whatever. And the first person to eat in your family is always your mother and father, or your grandparents, and then your mother and father. So when they serve you, if your grandparents are there, your grandparents get to the food first, and then your parents. And then the last person to eat is the children. And so, so you serve your parents the best food that you have in the house, or you serve your grandparents the best food you have in the house. With Samoa, they respect the older people. They're their elders. They respect them very much, so their elders get treated with royalty. They get the top treatment, no matter where you go. So if you're older, you know, you get the best, and the children gets, you know, whatever that's left over or whatever.
Talk about your health situation. Tell me what's going on with you. And
with my health, I was doing just fine. I had my fourth child, and but I was in my younger days. I was really active in sport, volleyball, basketball, and I was really active in sports. And but I keep my legs. I keep either breaking my ankle or you know, my ankle sprung several times, and from playing sports. And then I remember one day I was standing in the kitchen cooking, and I didn't have any children then, but I was standing in the kitchen cooking, and I could, in the side of my eye, I could see this white wall. I could see something going all over this wall, and I thought at first you know, there was a ghost in the house or something. But when I looked, it was just blood. Blood was squirting, and I was trying to figure out where this blood was coming from. I was scared, but it was coming from my ankle through a little tiny vein. It surfaced up to my skin, and it just bursted. And I guess of all the years of playing sports, and I guess my ankle finally gave in. And this vein was, so what I did is I put an ice pack on it, and it stopped. And so I had to clean up all the blood and everything. And then I said, then a little while later, a couple of days later, it did it again. And I was at a grocery store. And so, again, I had to put pressure on it and put some ice and get off of it. And it went away. So finally I went to see a doctor about it. And the doctor told me just to put an ice pack on it. And I should have listened to him and just put an ice pack on it. But one day my cousin Francis came over, and I was in bed, and I think I was in bed, I had blood all over the place because in the middle of the night my feet rubbed together and my ankles, and it irritated it, so the blood just kept coming out, coming out. So we went to emergency, and the doctor said, well, that's a dangerous situation. One of these days you're going to fall asleep, and all your blood is just going to drain out of you, and you're sleeping because you can't even feel it. And so they did an emergency surgery on my ankle, and I was in a cast for a few months, and then I started, learning how to walk again, and it was okay for a little while, and then I think it brought it on more when I started working for GTE, and we had to sit up in the stools, and our feet would be hanging down, and I think that brought it on even more, and so when I was working for GTE, it was the first time I ever had a fever. And then I didn't know where the fever was coming from, but my leg was turning beet red. And it was because I didn't know that it was because it was hanging down so much and all the fluids and everything were going down. So I had a really high fever, and I stayed in the hospital for a long time. And that was just the beginning of things that are happening now. And when I'm on my feet too much and I'm doing too much, it starts doing the same thing. So I've been in and out of the hospital with this condition, and
This has been going on for years, hasn't it?
yes, and so the more I gain weight, the worse it gets, and so it holds me back from doing a lot of things that I want to do, and but I force myself to do things because I don't want to sit at home and feel sorry for myself, and I just want to continue doing things because I do not want to stop, because I know once I stop and baby myself, I won't be able to walk at all, and so I live with pain 24 hours a day, and I don't think about it. I don't let it bother me, even though it does, but the pain I can live with. I can tolerate a lot of pain. And so a lot of times people don't know that I don't have a good night's sleep, and most of the time I have a lot of headaches from not having any sleep. And then to walk on my leg is very painful. But I know that if I'm not strong and continuing to be active and do things, I would be ending up at home feeling sorry for myself. And I don't want to be one of those kind of people that sit there and cry and feel sorry for themselves. And I know because of my leg, I can't really walk and exercise like I want to. I think several times before I gained this weight, after the first time my leg happened, my husband and I, we walked around and stuff. But the more I walked and put a lot of weight on my leg, it got worse, and I ended up in the hospital again. So I found out that every time I'm up and the fluids go down in my leg, I have a fever, and so that cut that walking stuff off. I couldn't walk anymore.
So is there any? Do they think they can do any kind of repair to it, or not?
When I asked my doctor this last time, he said either I cut it off or lose weight, or have surgery to lose weight to help me. And because, they said, well, you should exercise. You should do. I want to exercise, but I can't really walk to exercise. I can sit there and go like this or like that, and that's about it, And
now, have you ever had any kind of health insurance? I mean, through your whole life, I don't.
No.
Well, maybe when you were at the phone company or something.
Well, not even there. When I was working at the phone company.
Was it part time?
No, it was full time. But I was a contractor for GTE. And so, therefore, we didn't have insurance. They were talking about insurance, but they never got insurance. and so I didn't have insurance. And then I also remember when my kids were younger, when I went to the hospital had me, I, a social worker come up there and apply for Medi-Cal, so it could pay for some of the bills that I had, with the hospital. And sometimes they make it hard for you to even apply for Medi-Cal.
So the situation financially for you guys is that, as hard as he's working, it's not enough to pay for health insurance for the
Oh
family.
no,
Because
yeah,
he's self-employed too, right?
right. And it's hard. I think they should have affordable insurance, medical insurance here in America, to help people that can't afford. There's a lot of musicians, a lot of working people that don't have medical insurance, that need medical insurance. And I feel that America is taking care of so many different countries, which is a good thing. But I think they should need to take care of everything that their people need here in the United States. Medical insurance, housing. There's a lot of good people out there that just lost their jobs. They couldn't afford to pay for their homes. They couldn't afford to pay for their insurance, for medical insurance. And I think our government should really look into something that everybody should be taken care of, medical-wise, instead of living through pains, instead of, they can say, well, you're lazy. That's why, you don't have medical insurance. I don't think it's the lazy part of it. It's just the expensive part of it. And I'd rather pay for a roof over my head and food for my children to eat, and than to give my money away to pay for insurance, for medical insurance, because it's so expensive, and you want to provide for your family first before you can afford to have medical insurance. And I don't think I'm the only one. I know of a lot of people that have medical needs that can't afford,
It's not like the old days.
No, it's not.
Everything's so much more expensive. There's a lot of better care than there used to be too, but it's so expensive.
Yes.
Who can afford it? If unless you're insured, if you're paying out of your pocket, you got to have an awful lot of money.
And I actually feel that, when you, in those days, everything was affordable. Going to the dentist was affordable. Going to the doctor was affordable. Going to the movies is affordable. But everything's just so sky high, and the prices of everything, homes, cars, just everything is so high. Pretty soon we're just going to end up getting rid of our own race, just having everything so high and no one can afford to live. And
It's an expensive place to live.
very. And it's making it harder and harder, for people like us to get medical insurance that really need it. And sometimes when I listen to other people tell me about their pains and stuff, now with somebody that lives with pain 24 hours a day, you can really relate to those people and feel their pain.
The last time you were in a hospital, you were in there for 2 weeks. You had this raging infection in your leg again, and you were in there for 2 weeks, and they were supposed to, at some point I thought you were going to have some follow-up about getting on Medi-Cal or something, and it all came to a halt because Sione can't find his...
He doesn't have his birth certificate.
And that's stopping you from getting treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the breadwinner, and is that
Mm-hmm.
is that...
Yeah.
Yeah, but they want what does it have to do that he's got to be here legally for them to do something? Is that the deal?
Yeah, they gotta make sure that he's here legally. And I told them a long time ago that I applied for Medi-Cal. They should look up his records, and they said they can't find it. And meanwhile, we have to suffer it through until somebody brings his birth certificate to him, so he can go and get his green card again. And
So there's a big lack of communication with here in Tonga.
right.
There's nobody, there's no real government or somebody to talk to over there.
No, they don't have it like we do, where you just punch in the computer and here comes your birth certificate, like that. It's that whoever has to go get it for you. Have somebody send it to you. You can write them.
So in the meantime, you're jumping through all these. You got to go through all these hoops, and you're still in pain, and you're not getting
Right.
this addressed.
And it doesn't do you any good to go and apply, because they'll just tell you the same thing. They'll tell you the same story, and so it's really, really hard. And then I say to myself, geez, I've worked all my life. They've taken taxes off of me, and I pay my taxes or whatever, and yet I can't even afford to have health insurance or medical insurance to be taken care of. And I don't want to sound like a crybaby, but that's what I live with. So Mike, what do you think? You have any more questions for me?
Now this is when your foot is not infected, right? This is
Right.
this is normal. What if you want to call it normal?
Seeing all the swelling back here, and all the swelling in the side. It's all fluids. I didn't put lotion on my legs, so that's how what happened. They did the surgery there, and they cut it all the way here. And I don't understand why they cut my whole ankle when there was just a little tiny piece vein there, and they cut everything, and that made it worse.
Now, how long ago is this? How many years?
79. 1979.
26 years you've been living with this.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't know that behind that smile, Tina was dealing with so much pain. I see her week by week, making music, teaching, creating costumes, and raising her family. All the while, her health issues are creeping up on her. I can't believe that no one can help her cut through the red tape, help her fix her foot, help her lose weight. We have the greatest healthcare system in the world, so the saying goes. It's there all right, if you can afford it. I'm looking forward to telling part 2 of this story, the part where Tina gets the help she needs, a happy ending where everyone is entitled to have proper health care. Then I can sit back and watch my Hula girls.